While Mike Grier said that he does not want to add a more significant free agents, it's still worth looking at trying to fill some holes, and especially on the right-hand side of the defense.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at The Reef, also co-host of Western Conference Tuesdays on the Locked On NHL channel. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen, probably part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. If you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be looking at some of the leftovers now that free agency is kind of slowed down, right? Mike Grier is giving out the big contracts and Tyler Toffoli and Alex Wennberg. But, right, the roster tinkering is never done. And we're going to continue to kind of look at where the Sharks can potentially add. And I think their big hole right now is on the right-hand side of the defense, specifically in a puck-moving defenseman. So going to look at some of the leftovers here, and as the first wave of free agency is done, at some guys who I think could be potential adds to try to, again, fill some holes here. So before we do that, though, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So, yes, Mike Grier stated, they're kind of done. I know they want to look at some potential goalies, like third goalies, which we'll probably look at later this week as some potential additions there. But I still think right-handed defense is something the Sharks should be looking at, right? If you look at their defense core right now, you have Mark-Edward Vlasic, kind of the locked-in guys, right? Mark-Edward Vlasic, Jake Wallman, Mario Ferraro, Jan Ruda, Henry Thrun, who's going to be kind of, I think he will be on the team, but is going to have to kind of fight for a spot. Matt Benning, who's coming back from a hip surgery. Ty Emerson, who sounds like he's good to go, but did miss kind of the end of last season. And then, Shakir Mukhamadullin, I think, is kind of the other guy to keep an eye out here for this, for this job, for NHL jobs. You also do have some of the additions, Jimmy Schultz, Lucas Carlson, and Jack Thompson, but I feel like those guys are going to be kind of Barracuda guys this season. Then you can maybe go from there. But I still think, though, like getting, because the only right-handed players the Sharks have right now are Ty Emerson, Matt Benning, who are actually natural right-handed players. Everybody, I know, like Wallman's played on the left side. Vlasic's played both. Jan Ruda has played both, but I still think trying to find a right-handed puck-moving defenseman should still be on Mike Grier's checklist. So going to look at some of these players who I think could potentially fit the bill. And the first guy who I think is actually the best option out there is one Justin Schultz. So Schultz is 6'2", 194 pounds, played last season with the Kraken. He's projected to sign a 3-year deal at $3.2 million. It's a little pricey, but I think if maybe you try to knock it down to I would try to stick into the 1, maybe 2-year deals for Schultz, but let's kind of keep moving on. So last year, 70 games, he had 7 goals, 19 assists with 100 shots on goal. Played about 16.28 average time on ice, 53% Corsi, 39% goals for. So when he was on the ice, they accounted for 53% of the shot attempts, but only 39% of the actual goals scored when he was on the ice. Looking at his evolving hockey card, he's third line kind of a guy with the Kraken last year. 24th percentile player, 13th percentile offensively, 66th percentile defensively. Played a ton on the power play. Did not play like at all shorthanded. His expected goals above replacement were good. His actual goals replacement were pretty bad, to be honest. Defensively, even strength, he also was really good. Goals above replacement, expected goals above replacement. So solid defensively, maybe leave you a little bit more wanting in the offensive zone. Looking at his WAR card from JFresh, this is wins above replacement, 22 percentile player in that department, 24th percentile even strength offense, 34th percentile even strength defense, finishing 68th percentile. So he kind of was solid with scoring goals there. Was pretty good at creating the first assist. Didn't face too tough a competition, and his teammates also weren't the greatest as well, which usually happens when you're kind of playing third pairing minutes. But looking at what he does with his transition and all of his zones, he's great at getting the puck moving out of the defensive zone. And that has kind of been the story for the Sharks this year. And I think what they need to try to focus on is getting that puck moving. Does a great job of like successfully retrieving, exiting with the puck, is really good in that department. And also is very good at at the zone entry defense and not letting guys into the zone. So kind of two big areas for the Sharks to try to kind of work on here. It is to be noted though that Schultz, again, faced really easy competition. Didn't get a ton of zone starts, but did face pretty easy competition. Says kind of why his analytics are kind of the way they are. But for the Sharks, who are a team trying to find NHL caliber players, Justin Schultz is a NHL caliber player who I think fits a need for San Jose, and that is a puck moving defenseman who, not the greatest, right? Not the greatest offensively, but I think especially if you have Wallman, who's going to be kind of expected to carry the load in that department, finding someone else who can help out in case Wallman gets hurt, or again, Wallman can't play 60 minutes a night. Schultz is a guy who I would potentially look at, especially on the right side, and especially if you're maybe worried about Matt Benning coming back healthy. We know Ty Emerson's also struggled with injuries as well. And, I think that is, you're trying to kind of avoid some of the disasters we had last year where the Sharks just ran out of bodies at some point. Jan Ruda, who's going to be entering the last year of his contract, is potentially a trade candidate. We'll see how this season goes. But if you do sign him for a 1-year deal, and if he has a nice season, he could be a potential trade asset for you this as well. Mario Ferraro is another, we're probably going to continue to hear about Mario Ferraro trade rumors until Mario Ferraro gets traded and or signs an extension with the Sharks. But yeah, I think for San Jose, especially because you don't have a ton of young guys in the pool who I think are ready to go. I think Shakir Mukhamadullin is the next guy. And then, probably Jack Thompson is the other guys. And I think the other, your Pulleys, your Canyones, your Furlong, like those guys need some really solid AHL time. So that's why I think Schultz would be a really smart signing despite the age, just to kind of give a little bit of buffer. And again, we're trying to just raise the floor of competence for San Jose, as you were the worst team in the NHL last year. And one of your big struggles was just either A, keeping the puck out of your own zone, and B, when you did get it in your own zone, you could not get it out. I think Schultz would help to provide some. I think he'd be a big asset in that department. So we'll see. Again, right now spots are kind of filling up, so team players might be a little bit desperate, and that's where you could see a guy like Schultz where maybe willing to sign a 1-year kind of smaller deal, one, just to get him to play, and two, with the knowing like if I play well, I can probably get traded to a good team who's looking to make a cup run, especially if my contract's a little bit smaller, and then for Schultz to try to go win a cup. So yeah, I think he's the best available guy on the market. Nate Schmidt was the guy I really wanted to talk about, but he got signed today as well, because I thought he'd be a really nice fit. But yeah, he got signed today. So Schultz is kind of next man up right now when we talk about potential defenders. So we'll look at two guys here who have some warts, but could be some buy low candidates. And Adam Boqvist and John Klingberg. And so we'll get to the guys in just 1 second. If you want to go catch a baseball game, go see a concert, go to a comedy show, whatever you want to do this summer, you need to check out GameTime. GameTime is an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on GameTime actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. You got killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. They have, I really love with the customize your spot, where you can actually okay, I kind of want this spot, and let me kind of see what deals are going around in here. You can also save up to 60% off buying last minutes for your MLB tickets or concerts, comedy, movie, and theater. And I also love the all-in pricing because there's nothing worse than going to buy tickets and they get slammed with a bunch of fees. With GameTime's all-in pricing, you know exactly what you're going to pay before you go to check out. No surprises, no worry, no anxiety when you go to check out. You know what you're going to pay. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, let's go with a name who's been kind of very popular in the Sharks Twitter sphere of potential additions, and that is one Adam Boqvist. So Boqvist was actually put on waivers by Columbus to become a free agent. He's 6 foot, 182-pound defenseman, projected at 3 years at $2.4 million, which again, I'm not signing up Boqvist for 3 years. I am looking at a 1, maybe 2-year deal, but a 1-year deal to kind of let him reestablish his value. Last year with Columbus, he had 35 games. He had 1 goal, 9 assists, 45 shots on goal, average about 18-17 time on ice. Corsi for 48.96, goals for 48.15. So again, when he was on the ice, they took 48.96% of the shot attempts, and they scored 48.15% of the goals when he was on the ice at 5v5. Boqvist evolving hockey card, not the prettiest. So he kind of played second line minutes last year, was a 10th percentile player, 30th percentile offensively, 6th percentile defensively. No help on the shorthanded, which is fine. Played about second pairing minutes, even strength. Was positive offensively, but very much a negative in the defensive zone. Also played a ton of power play, but wasn't the greatest. But I think Jake Wallman is going to kind of be the de facto power play quarterback. So you're looking at a potential second PP unit guy here with Boqvist. So his WAR, thanks to JFresh, 27th percentile WAR. Overall, 76th percentile even strength offense, 87th percentile finishing, 3 percentile even strength defense, 99 percentile or 11th percentile power play. Goals 97th percentile in that. Did face tough competition, 73% competition, but did have good teammates with the 92nd percentile teammates. So he faced tough competition, but he was playing kind of with good guys around him. So looking at what Boqvist does well and does not do well, I don't know if it's a fit, especially for what the Sharks are looking for, because his zone retrievals, his zone entries are not great, to be honest. He's a really good passer in that regard, but when it comes to getting the puck out of his zone, he's struggles. We'll say nicely. He struggles in that area. But bunch of failed exits per 60. So it's how many kind of over a 60-minute period, how many times he does it, it's kind of off the charts there. Does get a lot of defensive zone touches and retrievals, but he can go get the puck, but struggles to actually get it out of the zone. So that would, again, I don't know if that's a fit for what San Jose likes to do. Doesn't really do a lot of zone entries. And when he does, they usually tend to not go very well. He's solid on the forecheck on dump-ins and going to get that. But Boqvist, I feel like, yes, he's young and stuff, but it feels very Calen Addison 2.0 is kind of how I would think of kind of put it. So looking at his usage chart, he did face tough he faced a fair amount of offensive zone deployments and had solid competition, but again, I don't think he kind of made the most of what was expected for him in that department. So Boqvist, you'd have to talk me into it with him. So I would probably look elsewhere. A very buy low candidate is John Klingberg. So 6'3", 390 pounds, projected a 1-year deal at $1.752 million. Only played 14 games last year because he had to have hip surgery. 0 goals, 5 assists, 14 shots on goal with Toronto. Played 20-33. Corsi for 51.91, goals for 39.13. So again, about 52% of the shot attempts, 39% of the goals when he was on the ice. Since he didn't play his evolving hockey card is pretty sparse. He played a ton of power play time before he got hurt. Was basically playing first pairing minutes for Toronto again before he got hurt. I think he got hurt right around American Thanksgiving, and then was done for the season for Toronto. Looking at his WAR, wins above replacement, you can definitely see it going down. And his defense has never been there, but the offense is think of it very much very, very poor man's Erik Karlsson, where he's going to provide you plenty of offense, but you're not getting much in the way of defense. So 92 percentile or 92% off even strength offense, 83% power play, 58% finishing. Like, his offensive numbers are really good. 0% even strength defense, kind of middle of the pack competition and middle of the pack teammates as well. So he's very much, you partner with a defensive defenseman of the defensiest kind with Klingberg. With him, though, his kind of fits what the Sharks are looking for, at least for what I think they're looking for, at least in the offensive zone. Is good at getting the puck, transporting the puck into the zone with controlled entries, good at kind of getting the puck, kind of retrieving the puck and getting it going the other way. Is terrible at denying guys. His zone entries, not very good defensively there. He gets picked on a lot with that. So a little bit of a struggle there. So, and looking at where he, definitely a lot of good offensive zone starts against mediocre competition, which is kind of putting your player in a position to succeed there. So Klingberg is definitely one of those guys who you could see either going really well or going really poorly, or probably a combination of both, where he's gonna, again, very, very poor man's Erik Karlsson. Again, I'm not trying to compare John Klingberg and Erik Karlsson because Erik Karlsson is out of this world offensively, and Klingberg, when he's doing well, can be a solid offensive defenseman, but defense isn't there. And the Sharks have struggled with defenders who can't defend, as well as defenders who can't get the puck out of their own zone. So at least he could get the puck out of their own zone. And if you paired him with a really solid partner, maybe like a Mario Ferraro, I think would be a really, where Ferraro can focus on kind of the more defensive liability issues. And we've seen Ferraro, I don't think Klingberg isn't going to kind of take the risk that Erik Karlsson will. maybe that could be a solid pairing where Ferraro can kind of focus a little bit more on the defensive area while Klingberg can kind of do offensive things. But definitely a risk for a guy coming off hip surgery, and he already got one of those in Matt Benning, but could be a potential buy low candidate. And if he has a really nice season, could be a really attractive trade asset for someone at the trade deadline who's maybe looking to add some help on the blue line. So we'll get to the last guy here in Tyson Barrie, and if he's worth a look or if it's maybe not all that's cracked up to be when you dig under it. Look at the numbers here. All right, so we're going to finish up by looking at Tyson Barrie, who I know is another kind of popular name in the Sharks Twitter sphere of guys who could be. Again, we're kind of looking, we're kind of in the scraps right now and trying to find somebody. So Tyson Barrie playing for the Preds last year, 5'11", 197 pounds, projected to sign a 1-year deal at 1.8. So definitely in the ballpark, I think, for what the Sharks are looking for. Played 41 games last year, 1 goal, 14 assists, 65 shots on goal, about 18-19 average time on ice a night. Corsi for 44.12, goals for 48%. So when they were on the ice, when Barrie was on the ice, they had 44% of the shot attempts and 48% of the goals. But pulling up his evolving hockey card, playing about second pairing minutes, 4th percentile player, 16th percentile offensively, 6th percentile defensively. Expected goals above replacement offensively is not good. Goals per replacement, expected goals above replacement, even straight defensively, also not good. Did play a ton of power play as well last year. No help on the PK, which is fine. Right, you have plenty of other defensemen who can kind of fill that role between Emberson and Thrun and Ferraro and Vlasic and like you have plenty of the other guys who can kind of fill those roles as well. But it's I don't know if the offense is offensive enough for maybe for the lack of defense. So 15 percentile WAR on JFresh's card, 29th percentile even strength offense, 3% defense, 78% power play, solid on the goals and first assist, 27% competition. So he's kind of facing lower competition, and 44 percentile teammates are kind of in the middle with that. And you've seen his kind of WAR over the last couple of seasons really fall down, especially kind of coming over from Edmonton to Nashville and kind of being stuck behind Roman Yossi and Carrier. Like he's, and Barrie was a healthy scratch a lot for the Preds last year. So his zone cards from Micah, from Corey in all 3 zones, not pretty. Passing, 1-time assist, he's really good at setting guys up on the 1-timer. Pretty solid at like kind of the entry. He faces a fair amount of the entry targets per 60, so like zone entries he's gonna, a lot of they look at him a lot, but not the greatest at kind of denying that. His defensive zone exits are okay in area, like he doesn't do a lot of them, and when he does them he does okay, but I think there's not a lot to like, especially after this year with Nashville. Uses charts, got some offensive zone deployment against weak competition and did not do much of anything with it, so which worries me. The thing, though, is you could always look back at like his time with Edmonton, where he was a much better offensive defenseman with Edmonton, and maybe that's where you point to and say, look, he was kind of the stuck behind Roman Yossi, who's really good, right? Roman Yossi's gonna get like all the offensive zone starts. Alexander Carrier, who I talked about on this show as a potential like a potential target for San Jose and end up getting a pretty solid deal with Nashville. And then maybe kind of wasn't the right fit and kind of was just kind of writing out his contract with Nashville, and maybe a fresh start with it. But I worry for a guy you see kind of the numbers really sliding over the last couple seasons, if it might be closer to the end for Tyson Barrie than we are kind of maybe in the middle. So maybe he just has a bounce back season, and the Sharks could be the team to kind of capitalize on it, and then again look to try to move quickly before locking him up to a long-term deal and kind of paint yourself into a corner with him. So it's tough. We're getting to the scraps out here. I think out of the four guys, I think Schultz is yes, I know he's a little bit older than the rest of the guys, but I think Schultz is still the best option available for the Sharks, and especially if you can maybe get him for a 1-year deal where he can kind of come in, play well, and if Mike Grier is like, hey, we'll look to move you to a contender. You play well for us, we'll look to move you to a contender this season where you can try to go win a cup or go play meaningful playoff games. That could be maybe that is an enticing offer for him, just kind of knowing play well, help our young guys out here, and we'll try to do good by the end of the season. We know Mike Grier is going to try to do that for the veterans, right? It's very much even, the established veterans, I'm going to try to kind of do that for you. Help us out with our young guys. We're going to try to do right by you and make sure we put you in a position to try to win at some point here. So, but yeah, it's getting a little stark out there for the Sharks. I'm curious to see if they do try to add someone at the right-handed spot, or if they just kind of let it ride right now. And maybe you see if getting closer to training camps, if guys might be available for a trade, or guys maybe on the waiver wire, especially since the Sharks do have first priority on the waiver wire. I think until if I recall correctly, it's the first month or so where the Sharks will have the first priority on the waiver wire, and then for about the first month, or maybe it's till November 15th or something like that. But and then they'll kind of reorder it by actual standings. So it's kind of nice about being the worst team. You get the first pick, and then you get first priority on waiver wire for a while, especially with the Sharks, who were very much in flipping over acorns, trying to find some guys. And last year, right, you got Ty Emberson off of waivers, and he was a really great addition when he was healthy. So I'm curious to see what Mike Grier kind of does here, if to add a right-handed defenseman, because I feel like that's the slot, that's the spot right there where the Sharks probably want to try to add at least one more name into the mix, and then you go into training camp and try to figure out who's available, and if you need to maybe trade somebody or whatever. There's plenty of guys get traded all the time. So that's gonna be it for me today. We'll continue with free agency stuff if there's any news, signings, all that fun stuff. We'll sometime this week, probably tomorrow, to be honest, we'll probably look at potential 3G, the third goalie options, guys who are AHL guys who can play some NHL games in a pinch. So we'll look at some of these options that are available. Of course, and on Thursday, I'll be at the game for Sharks prospect scrimmage, so I'll be there. We'll have some content from that, so make sure you guys are following wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. And then as the July goes on, we'll dig into some of the new prospects, get to know them better, have some deep dives on some of these guys, and kind of get to know their games a little bit better. So plenty of great stuff coming here at Locked On Sharks. So make sure, again, follow along wherever you get podcasts. You can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter at MyFryhole. Till tomorrow. Bye, friends.